In my latest video, you guys have been going absolutely crazy. My latest video was putting the S22 up against the Galaxy A53. And how did that turn out? Well, the S22 took that round by a landslide, right? Then I saw the comments and I checked. Everyone was saying that the A55 or A56 had improved on that and that these phones would easily destroy the S22. So I wanted to know, how true is that? And you guys also wanted to know, how true is that, right? So I went out to Best Buy and I got myself this Samsung Galaxy A57. This is going to be the exact same knockout type of round like last time, right? There's going to be points given for each category. There's going to be a few categories, and whichever phone comes out on top with the most points at the end is going to be the winner. Right off with the build quality, there is a major difference between the A57 and the A53 that we tested last time. The A57 has completely changed its build to a glass sandwich, just like the S22. That means aluminum rails all the way around with a glass back. That's actually glass and not just some plastic thing, right? You might be like, all right, well, because that's a glass sandwich now, and so is the S22, so they must be equal, right? That is where you're wrong. The S22 uses Armor aluminum, which is Samsung's strongest aluminum they offer in their phones. Meaning, this phone is a lot more durable than the A56. Then you come to the glass, and you might be like, all right, they're both glass backs, right? Well, this is Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, while this is just basic Gorilla Glass. So the glass is frosted, more premium feeling, and stronger, and more scratch resistant than the one on the A56. So build quality, the A57 has a lot of catching up that is done. It's a lot better than the A53, but easily, I would still give the build quality to the Galaxy S22, right? And this is not even to hate on the A57. And then you come down to the display. Last time, the S22 also took the display category, but this time, let's see if the A57 can do any catching up. Now it is a 120Hz AMOLED display, just like before, but it now gets up to 1900 nits of peak brightness. So it's a lot better from the A53's 800 nits. How does this stack up against the S22 though, right? S22, 120Hz display, same thing as before, right? And the reason it won last time, it was because it had 1300 nits of brightness versus 800 on the A53. But now that the A57 has outclassed it, I will now be giving this category to the A57, which can actually drive the display at 120Hz all the time, and is actually brighter than the S22 in direct sunlight. That's the first point going to the mid-ranger. Coming to the performance of these two devices. It's been looking good for the A57 so far. It's beat the S22 in the thing that it lost last time and has caught up a lot in the build quality. How is the performance though? Actually, I'm really shocked. I was expecting the S22 to completely blow off the A57 in terms of performance, but the A57 has never felt less laggy. Don't get me wrong, it is still 100% slower than the S22 in everyday tasks. Trust me, it is. But it does not hitch or stutter like the A53 does. No hitching, no stuttering. Matter of fact, all my games run really fast, really smoothly, right? But I still will give this to the S22. I'm sorry, but no matter how many years go by, dude, you can't beat the performance that the S22, a true flagship, was built for. Everyday tasks are a lot smoother. There's just less general stuttering. Games open a lot faster. Games run a lot faster. Like Pokemon Go, for example. Both phones, yes. The A57 does open the game at the same time. They do load up at the same time. But the S22 can actually run two of them without stuttering, while the A57 might have a stutter here and there with Pokemon Go, even one of them. Again, the A57 can run this game beautifully. There's no issues with it at all. Matter of fact, it's a really serviceable phone. But the S22 just has that slight edge on it where it does not stutter one bit, even with two instances of certain apps open, right? Overall though, definitely a huge performance gain from the A53, but I will still have to give this point to the Samsung S22. So now that's looking like 2-1, I believe. honestly, A57 has been really good so far, and it makes a strong point for itself. So the next category naturally would follow performance is battery life. Heavy performance, how's the battery life? Well, I already discussed this last video. The S22 has terrible battery life. It's plagued with it, right? It has a really small cell at 3700 milliamps and a really inefficient processor, which uses a lot of battery. And then you come to the A57, which has a much bigger pool, 5000 milliamp hour battery, and a much more efficient processor than the A53. So this thing's battery is extremely, extremely good compared to the S22, which just sips power with a much smaller pool to work with. And then to charge up those batteries, right? The A53 has 45 watts of charging support, while the S22 is stuck at a measly 25 watts. So major clear win for the A57, and that brings the score to 2-2. And now the A57 is standing right beside the S22, looking it right in his face, and this might be homecoming for the A57. The mid-rangers finally might be making a comeback. Alright, let's move on to the cameras. How are the cameras on both of these devices? Well, I'll just post the photos up here, comparison. Honestly, it's a butchering. Plain, the A57, you can notice one thing about it. It loves to saturate colors a lot. I don't know if that's showing properly on the screen. There might be some editing stuff, but in real life, the A57 loves saturating images a lot, and the images just have general, less detail in them. If you zoom in on any image, let's say I have a selfie, you zoom in on my face, you will see all the individual hair and everything, versus the A57, where it's all just a blurry mess. Cameras, I'm sorry to say this, but again, in photography, especially in low lighting, the S22 eats the A57 for breakfast. It's not even close, right? Then you come to videography, and once again, it's not close. The S22's videos look a lot smoother, a lot sharper, a lot better. And the S22 can go up to 8K 24 FPS, which doesn't really say much because who actually uses 8K? But at the same time, that is crazy compared to the A57, which can only go 4K 30. 4K 30? Are we still doing that? 2026, right? Every phone nowadays can go at least 4K 60 and some even 4K 120. So 4K 30 just doesn't feel right. The videos will never be as smooth. So easy win for the S22 in the camera department. That makes the score 3-2, which is still a lot better than the A53 ever did. And then moving on to software, the last category, and this is where the A57 can tie the game, or this is where it might even win, or tie, right? The A57 takes a massive lead by the simple fact that this thing can run 6 years more of software updates. Samsung has promised 6 years of software updates for the A57, whereas the S22 has reached the end of its life at One UI 8. Which is unfortunate because the S22 is a lot capable of running the newer softwares pretty easily because it just has so much physical raw horsepower. So easy point to the A57. But I do have to clarify that if you're buying this phone just for software updates, I would not do that because yes, it can handle the current software, but no one knows exactly what Samsung plans to throw onto newer software updates, and this weaker hardware compared to actual S series might not actually be able to handle it, and I might actually become a stuttering mess. A lot more than the stutters already has, right? So personally, it's not that big of a win, and I'm only giving it the win because it has 6 years of updates ahead, and because this one has hit its life's end, right? Then I want to come to one last thing. Last video, I never discussed these things, but here's quality of life things. S22 offers wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, which, believe it or not, for me are extremely useful. I mean, I got a Galaxy Watch, Galaxy Buds, and I really don't like charging my phone at nighttime, so just being able to place your phone on a nightstand's wireless charging, or just being able to charge your watch and phone on the go, a lot more helpful than whatever the A57 has going on. No wireless charging, no reverse wireless charging, nothing like that, okay? Another quality of life thing, not really a quality of life thing, but the bezel on the A57, the bottom bezel is a lot bigger than the rest of the bezel. I know it's not like much, but it kind of distracts me a bit. And then the biggest thing for me is this ugly plateau that the thing has going on the power buttons, right? I don't know, like why is this weird plateau there? I'm pretty sure Samsung has made that plateau to kind of be able to tell people that, hey, yeah, your phone will not be uniform. You gotta pay like $1,000 plus for that. It's to make you feel like you own a series rather than an S series, right? Another thing I have a issue with, the speakers, they're not as good. There's not as much bass. I mean, they get loud, but they're not as clear and they're not as punchy and bassful, okay? Another thing I have an issue with is the optical fingerprint sensor. The S22 offers a ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, and trust me when I say this. Trust me, like, matter of fact, I'll show you a demonstration right now. I can just tap the screen on the fingerprint area on the S22, like just tap it. And it'll beat the A57 every single time. Like the A57, you have to really hold your finger there on the fingerprint sensor, which is actually a lot lower in the screen than in a much natural position on the S22, which opens with one click instant. It doesn't feel like I have to hold my finger there on the S22. That's another thing. So quality of life features, easily I would give it to the S22. And that kind of brings the score back up to 3 to 4. Now, I know you might be like, okay, he's just doing all that just to maybe shit on the A57. But I'm telling you, truly, it is not worth buying a brand new budget phone, especially the A series. It's not worth it. An older flagship will always have better things to give you. Yeah, sure, the S22 might be a bit older, and honestly, I wouldn't really recommend it much, but you gotta understand, I wouldn't recommend the A57 much either, because this thing starts at 600 Canadian dollars, right? I paid $630 Canadian dollars in plus taxes for this device. For the same price, you can get a Samsung Galaxy, actually not even for the same price, for $200 less, you can get the Samsung S24 on the secondhand market, right? And if you really want the better battery, you can go for the S24 Plus, which offers better battery, right? Just as big of a display, an actual ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, a fully always-on display that can light up your entire wallpaper, much better cameras, much better performance, and a lot more AI features, and software support that still has 5 years left, because that phone offers 7 years and it's only 2 years old. So this one is only offering 1 more year of software update on that. So my point is, I would never buy this phone. Unless, like, if it weren't for this review, I would not have bought this phone. I would 100% always use that same money, or matter of fact, even $200 less. And I would, for $400, get an S24, or maybe for a bit more dollars, a S24 Plus. So I strongly urge you guys as the viewer, if you guys really need a phone, and if you guys can afford a A57, you can 100% afford a S24. So go for that instead. And yes, the A57 has officially tied the S22, which I still wouldn't recommend over the A57, but I would not recommend the A57 either. And I recommend that you go and buy the S24. Those are my thoughts on this phone, and if you guys want to see a full comparison before the S24 versus how it stacks up against the A57, let me know, drop it down in the comments, and if you get like a few, maybe like a 200 likes, I'll drop that video down. So that's all for me, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.